Okay, hello and welcome everybody to office hours for November. So you can chat in any of your questions. You can put your webcam on and or ask questions via audio. I will be on for 45 minutes and answering your questions. All right, first. From Michael, hi Willie, enjoyed your live trainings last week, but how to improvise over dense arrangements like Over the Rainbow? Well, again, this is kind of a cool thing. It's like, a song like Over the Rainbow is actually not as dense as you might think. Like, so. So here I'm using all E flat major scale for most of that, all right? Actually, I was doing all E flat major scale for all of that, but I should say that for most of the arrangement, you could get away with using your E flat major scale. So my suggestion is this. When you're first starting with improvisation, think less about what scales to be using. The scale that you should start with is start with that major scale. Do the major scale, the blues scale. Those two scales are good scales to start with. Blues scale is great for like blues or funk and that kind of stuff. And then of course that could also be like the minor pentatonic. It's all kind of like the blues scale, minor pentatonic. They're all very, there's only one note difference there. And then the major scale for more improvising over standards and that kind of stuff. And instead of focusing on, well, what scales do I use, instead start to think about rhythm, start to think about articulation, start to think about dynamics, space, that kind of stuff, right? Because improvisation is less about like, oh, I played all the right notes, and it's more about how do you play those notes. So remember, like a major scale works about 75% of the time on a song. So you got a pretty good chance that those notes are going to work, or at least some of those notes. So I would start with that first. All right, so other questions. This is your time. So you can, like I said, turn on your mic, ask a question, over audio, turn on your camera if you want. You want to play something and get my reaction to it. You want to play something for the group. You just want to play and play in front of others. Don't be shy. Carlos, very good. Thank you very much. Let's see. Hi, Willie. Right now I'm playing on a trio with sax and drums. Awesome. How would you suggest in playing the bass line and chords in the right hand? Right now I'm just doing walking bass line and closed position rootless voicings. Anything else I can do? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do in terms of, how you change around those voicings. So first of all, like, let's just take something like, I'm just going to do rhythm changes. So, or 1-6-2-5. So now when I do this, okay, there's nothing wrong with that, all right? Now, one thing that I can go and I can focus on is like, okay, when I go through, now let me focus on really like rhythmicizing those chords a little bit more. Right, so now I'm like really focusing more on the rhythm. Then I can go through and say, okay, now let me start to go in and add in some more tensions. So I can like start adding in flat 9s, flat 13s, stuff like that. Now let me go through and like kind of do chordals. Now I'm doing chordals and 3-note chord voicings there. So I'm trying to like kind of change around my voicings. Then I could say, let me go through and like do some more like clusters and stuff like that. Then I can go through and I can say, let me do some reharmonizations and let me do. you know, like do the tritone substitution before you get to the resolution of the next chord. So B flat, A flat 7, then G7, C minor, G flat 7, F7. So before each dominant chord, go up a half step and then resolve down a half step. So take all your dominant chords, go up a half step, do a dominant chord up a half step, and then resolve down to that target chord. And then we didn't even get into anything with the bass line stuff, you know, like doing some alternate bass notes, doing some pedal tone, stuff like that. You could also try. So there I'm like doing bass lines in tenths and stuff like that, or in intervals. That's kind of cool. You can even try to. Right there I'm doing the bass line in octaves, then I split into tenths. You get some really cool sounds there, right? So there's some ideas for you to try and like kind of move on. Sorry, I keep rubbing my arms because my hands are freezing cold. It's 35 degrees here in Rhode Island. Yeah, awesome. So any of you that have like a, you know, nice warm place on the beach or something, you know, let me know. I definitely cannot see retiring in Rhode Island, so I might be down a little south there when I get a little older. So anyway, try those ideas. That would be a good place to start. Also take a look at you know, the bass line lessons on the site. Ben's Blues is good for a blues bass line. Take a look at the rhythm changes lessons for a rhythm changes bass line. Take a look at, there's a Ray Charles lesson that has a really good bass line in it. Also the Ethel Caffey Austin, which is the Gospel Basics, I think that's the name of it, has a cool bass line in there. And that would be good for like kind of like some different bass line choices. All right, so other questions, go ahead and keep them coming, keep them coming. All right, who else has a question? Go ahead and pop in, audio, video, chat. Michael, excellent. Me again, I meant your arrangement of Rainbow is pretty dense when starting to improvise with only shells in the left hand sounding a bit weak after the bridge. Oh, okay. So when you're doing, okay, so when you're doing just shells, like, so let me take Over the Rainbow and just kind of do a little bit of improvisation over it. So yeah, I mean, it does sound thin there, but you notice how like if your improvised line is strong, you can still sell it, right? Now, if that, but like let's say you want to thicken that up a little bit, right? And it's not thick enough for you. Then what you can do is try doing stuff like, you know, the root 5/10. Right? Or you can even just break up the shell. So you see how I can do root 5/10 for the E flat, root 5/10 for C minor, root 5/10 for G minor, but now in the B flat, E flat, or B flat A, whichever one you want to play, it's only one beat a piece. So then I could just do the shell like that, or I can break it up like that into like the bottom note, top note, bottom note, top note, right, and the resolution. And that creates some movement in the left hand. So whenever you're just playing those shells, just like static like that, yes, it's going to sound a little bit thin. Let's see. What am I doing? So here I'm starting to like kind of like get some more motion in the left hand. So the melody. So you see how I'm getting that more of that motion in that left hand? So root 5, 10. On the B flat sus. I'm not sure what I wrote in the arrangement, but what I'm just playing here is E flat. F minor, B flat. So that would be a good thing to practice too, especially on that bridge that. Sorry, on the B flat. And then you'll have the recording of this, so you can refer back to that and grab all of those notes. South Texas, 80 degrees there. Oh, yeah, like, yeah, awesome. Nice. Another question. When playing with the trio, does it have to be walking bass line, or can I switch to chord shells? Oh, yeah, and rootless voicings in the left hand as well as doing walking bass line. No, you're not getting ahead of yourself. So let's say you're playing with them, and then, like, you know, you're doing like a blues in B flat, right? There. See how I'm moving to these two-handed chords, like a. See, I can like, bam, hit that root down there, the E flat, hit the chord. And I can hit like that pedal tone, the 5. You know, so I'm hitting the 5th there. And then go back into the bass line from there. So, or doing like those. That 10th is a cool thing as well. You can also, let's say the tempo is that fast. Do a halftime. Go back into the regular tempo. So doing that halftime like that, that's kind of a cool thing as well. So you can change around. I mean, what you're looking to do is, and you're not getting ahead of yourself, but what you're looking to do is create as many different arrangement possibilities as you can. Because since you're playing with, what did you say again? It's sax and drums. All right, so now you're kind of like in this real interesting and awesomely cool spot because you get to control what happens in the harmony, okay? So like if you're playing a blues and you have no bass player and the sax is just playing, like, I mean, like I might go, can't just stay on that one chord, right? So the sax player, hey man, use your ears, you know, you can hear I'm not moving. And guess what? The sax player, if they're improvising over something like a blues, it doesn't matter if you stay on the one chord or anything. The main thing I'm trying to say here is that you get to control the bass motion and the harmony. So really, you could do anything that you want. As long as you're locking in with the drums, the sax player is just going to follow, all right? So you can have some fun with that during a practice session. That's the perfect time to like kind of play around with it. And then live, you do stuff that you've worked out. All right, Deb. Hi, Willie. I'm getting a request for Blackbird, and your lesson arrangement is absolutely beautiful. When spreading out those chords to create a ripple effect, are you using both hands or just the right hand? And do you have an easier lesson showing that technique? I don't know if I have an easier lesson showing that technique, but what I would definitely suggest is take a look at the New Age piano lesson, right? New Age piano would be good, because I also go through some some of that stuff, some of that like, you know, broken left hand. The other part of the question is, am I using my right hand as well? And yes, I am. It really depends upon the situation. It depends, like, if I have to, like, you know, kind of be holding, if I have to like be holding a note over here, then no, I might not be using my right hand for that. But now here I just used my right hand. So right, so here I'm switching to my right hand, but while still holding out that note. So what I would suggest is, you don't really need, I think, a lesson on that. I think if you're already playing that arrangement, you probably already have the skills that you need. Instead, what I would do is I would look at a chord. I would look at, like, okay, let me just do major chords. So like, again, like, let's say I'm going to do C, right? So now just focus on creating this flowing motion and just practice it between the two hands. All right? What you're really trying to do is fill space. That's more important than if you're doing it with the left hand or the right hand by itself. So if I'm doing like one measure of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right, so that works. But now, how many other variations can I come up with using eighth notes? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So you see, I keep getting back to that C down there, and I'm trying to come up with all these different variations. Sometimes I'm using my right hand, sometimes I'm using just my left hand, I'm doing chords in the right hand, but I'm trying to focus on making that a one measure pattern. Now, what if I do a two measure pattern? So there, I'm just now focusing on trying to play that C chord for two measures. A lot of times you're not going to have that one chord for two measures. It's usually going to be like one measure or maybe a half a measure, but it's still something to practice and just kind of make sure that you can do that. And then what you could do is just move in between different major chords. Keep a constant structure, so it's just a major chord. So I'll do one measure, C, G flat, E, D, F, E flat, C, G. So you see how I could literally take four chords, play them one after another, all major chords, and then create a song out of it on the spot and have something to like kind of play as a filler. Just right off the bat, C, B flat, G flat, and F. All right, so four chords that are probably not going to go. I want to normally choose those. So C, B flat, G flat, F, C, B flat, G Now, obviously, if I want to get back to C, a better chord choice would be going to a G, right? So C, B flat, G flat, G, right? And then now I have myself a little pattern data that I can practice. And what's great about stuff like that is you get kind of double duty there. One, it's a nice technical thing to practice and kind of get that flowing between the hands, or just one hand, whatever you decide to do. But then it's also something that you can utilize on a gig, or just to fill up any space, you know. So it's nice that way. All right, Kathy, in step 2 of your My Romance, you mentioned playing the piece with the left hand root and third just for practice. Then you said it was good in particular to add the third to the 5 of the 2-5-1 progressions. Were there any other progressions in My Romance where it's good to add the third rather than just play the root 7? Obviously, a beginner learning to do this. Okay. Thank you, Kathy, for your question. It's a great question. You can add the third into any chord that you want. The reason I probably said adding in the third onto the 5-7, and I probably said adding in the third in the left hand. So there's 2 ways of adding in the third. You could do root 7 and add the third in the right hand and then have your melody note on top. Okay, so that's one thing you could do. You could do that on any chord, C minor, F major. All right, but the challenge of adding the third with the right hand is obviously that you got to play it with your thumb, and now you have 4 fingers to play the rest of the melody with. Now adding left hand, you have single note, you have dyad, you have triad, you have 7th chord, okay? So single note, right, okay? Dyad, 2 notes. So like, you know, playing like root 5, you know, it's usually going to be like, you know, the root in the 5th, root in the 7th, root in the 3rd, something like that. Okay, it could be octaves as well, but I kind of consider that just a beefed up single note, okay? So root 3rd, root 5th, root 7th is a dyad, okay? And we also call these chord shells. Triads could be root 3-5. That's typical for a B flat major triad, right? Or B flat, D flat, and F for a B flat minor triad. But triad really just means 3-note chords. So that means that, like, if I have my dyad, my root and 7th for B flat, so I have a B flat and an A, I could add that D in there, the 3rd, okay? That'd be fine. Now, is it 3rd or do I do 5th? The reason you do 3rd is because now you've got your guide tones in there, the D and the A. That's my guide tones, right? Another way of looking at it is the 5th doesn't add much to the chord. Unless the 5th is altered by like a diminished chord or a minor 7 flat 5, okay, or sharp 5, unless that 5th has some kind of alteration on it, if it's just a plain old 5th, it doesn't add much to add that in. Instead, the 3rd adds a lot because now the 3rd defines without question exactly what that chord is. Now we know it's a B flat major 7th chord, because without the 3rd in there, it could be a B flat minor major 7th chord, okay, as well. So once we add in that 3rd, we know exactly what that chord is. So you could add in root 3 7th on any of your chords. That would be fine. Can I do root 5th 7? Sure. It's just going to sound a little bit weaker. It's not going to have the same oomph, all right? Versus the 3rd. And remember, some chords, when you play them a little too low, are going to sound, you might say, I don't like the 3rd down there. So then you just go back to your 7th, okay? And or root 7, I should say. Now, if you're playing the root and 3rd, well, then again, you could do root and 3rd, right? Or you could also do root 3rd and then add in the 7th. A lot of times I suggest playing more root 7s than root 3s because root 3s are very thin sounding. But often where the root 3rd comes in to play very nicely is when we have like something like that, D to G, because the root 7 of D resolves so nicely to the root 3 of G, root 7 of C resolves so nicely to the root 3rd of F. Okay, so when we have that dominant motion, okay, or cycle 4 motion going backwards on the circle of fifths, right? When we have that kind of motion going from a root 7 to a root 3, or vice versa, root 3 to a root 7, sounds good voice leading wise. So those chords move very nicely like that. So that's why we we also learn that root third as well. But when we're doing arrangements, we could get away with doing an entire arrangement just with the root seventh, all right? So hopefully that answers your, question. Yeah, Rick sent me a private message saying that the piano sounds lousy. That's because it's probably all coming out of this speaker or this microphone right here. Bear in mind, when it's live, it's live. And then also sometimes it's not just on my end, sometimes it could be on your end, how much data is coming in, all right? So there's no way to know where, even if I had it all plugged in, like studio-wise, it could still sound bad. But I'm recording this, so remember, you'll always have the recording as well, and the recording is studio quality. So you just have to bear with it for the live version, but the recorded version will sound much better.
Willie,
Yes.
Willie, can I ask a question?
Yep, who is this?
It's Ruth Reynolds.
Oh, hey, Ruth, how you doing? Go ahead.
Good. It's a practice question, and
Yep.
that is that I feel like I'm doing a lot of chords and I'm doing scales, I'm doing piano essentials and chord essentials, and that's great, and I'm learning something there, but I'm not connecting it to a piece of music, you know, so I feel from day to day, I don't feel like like I've got a sort of schedule, or I've not a schedule, but I don't have sort of goals that I can say, okay, I'm doing this piece of music a lot better than I was last week, or that kind of thing. I don't feel like I'm progressing, and I'm trying to learn improv, so you know, I could pick any piece of music, but I need a bit more structure, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that.
Okay,
Can you help?
Absolutely. So let me ask you, have you tried taking that major scale and improvising over that major scale over any song? So in other words, like if I did My Romance, it's in the key of B
Right.
flat. Have you tried then playing the chord shells of My Romance in the left hand while just improvising using that B flat major scale in the right hand?
Okay, not specifically for specific pieces of music.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would start with that first. And remember that there's no silver bullet in music. I can't just simply say, oh, play
No.
that scale and it's always going to sound great in every situation, obviously.
No.
But if I take just those chord shells from My Romance and I play my B flat major scale, first way to start is I'm just playing the major scale up and down. Now, bear in mind, sometimes you might have to kind of like move your hands out of the way because they might start to conflict. So you might want to do, like do the scale just up in that range, all right?
Right.
But if you're down here, they may conflict a little bit. But you start with that, just playing the scale up and down like that. Now the next thing is, once you feel pretty comfortable with that, is play the scale starting on each root of the chords. Okay, so like I'm starting on B flat, starting on C, D. Okay, now when I get to D flat, that note is not in the B flat scale, all right? So what I could do is I could still start on D flat and then still kind of like pick up with the B flat major scale as soon as I can. So either do that as D flat, then D, E flat, F, or skip over the D altogether and just go D flat, E flat, F, G. And then
Okay. So Willie, just so that I understand, so every time you make a chord change in the left hand, use the scale in the right.
exactly. The major scale for the key that you're in, all right? And then what you do then is you, you play okay, let's go back to My Romance. So the second chord is a C minor chord. Okay, so I'm just playing a root 7 chord shell. So I'm going to play, the key that I'm in is B flat. So I'm going to play a B flat major scale, but I'm going to start it on C. Okay?
Okay.
So it's C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C, right? Now, that kind of practice is going to be out of time, okay? Because obviously I can't fit all those notes in 2 beats. Well, I could, but I'm not in this particular situation. So here it's like a little bit more exercise based. Okay?
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So now, once you feel comfortable doing that, then the next step is you could just kind of like dive into the deep end of the pool, and that's like, all right, now you have those notes. If you're, like, I would suggest now just try improvising around with it. See what you come up with. And you might come up with
Yeah.
something like this. Right? And it's like you kind of got the notes, but rhythmically it's like, yeah, you know, it's like it just ain't happening. All right. So if that's the situation, which likely it will happen like that, because that's typically what happens. All right.
Okay.
Then now what you want to do is take a specific rhythm and apply a specific rhythm. So like da dee ba da, like or like.
Oh, I see.
All right, so I'm taking one specific rhythm and I'm applying it to those same notes that I was just playing on the scale with the chords in the left hand. Now, the reason I say
Gotcha.
try that like step of jumping in the deep end of the pool is sometimes some students are able to just like. You know, they kind of like once they kind of have the notes, they have a knack of how to put it in there. So try that first. See if that works for you. Right? Definitely take a look at the 6 sessions that I just did because I covered that whole technique. All right.
Okay.
So the Black Friday sessions. I know you're a member, so just go in and click on where it says courses and go to live. That it says live training. I think it says live trainings. And go in there, and you'll see those sessions in there. Most of them are in there. I don't think the last one is in there yet, but they're right in there.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You betcha. Ron, I know you asked to be a presenter. You don't have to be a presenter. Just go ahead and unmute your microphone if you want to speak. Tom, that's a great exercise because it's hard for me to remember the chords when I am not playing the melody. Yes, it is a great exercise. And you know, it works, like I say, like 3/4 of the time. It doesn't work all of the time. It's the kind of thing where what I like about that exercise is that I like anything in which, in like a pretty broad brushstroke, I can like take care of 3/4 of a song with one scale. That's pretty cool to me. All right, I like that concept. And I think that it makes it a lot easier for you as a beginning improviser, you being any of you as a beginning improviser, okay? Because one of the challenges that I see with improvisation is that the way that improvisation has been taught over the years is inherently flawed, okay? Whew, that's a pretty bold statement, right? Because the way I learned improvisation was you have a chord and here are the different scales that work with that, okay? And then it was just basically like, go ahead and start improvising. And then, you know, they would say, these are avoid notes. And there's several things that I disagree with that approach. One, the whole avoid note, well, no, it's not that it's an avoid note, it's that it needs special attention. You don't want to use it as a target note. But to say that it's an avoid note means that, to me, when I hear the word avoid, I mean you don't play it, right? That's what I heard in my, 15-year-old ears was like, oh, my brain was saying, oh, I don't play those notes, okay? When in reality, well, no, because now imagine this. Now you have to like memorize what scales go to a chord, but then now you have to memorize, well, what notes do I avoid in those scales that go to that chord? It's just madness. And that's the other problem that I have with it is that there's too much information, too many choices that you need to make. And as an improviser, you cannot make those choices that fast, all right? So instead, the approach that I like is now instead of focusing on all of these scale choices, focus on what really matters. And that is, it's not the size of your vocabulary, it's how you use that vocabulary. And we see that in everyday life. I mean, I don't have like this, 15,000 word vocabulary. I probably have 4,000 words in my vocabulary. It's how you use it, right? So with a major scale, you should be able to improvise using a major scale over My Romance. I mean, I can like... Right? All of that is all B flat major scale. So it's not the notes that I'm choosing, but you hear that it's how I'm playing those notes. It's the rhythm, it's the attack, it's the dynamics, it's the space, it's the feel, right? That's the secret sauce for improvisation. So being led to believe that it's like, oh, you got to get all these right notes. No. Because I could also play... I could play all these notes that are wrong. You may not like it, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that it's not at least musically interesting to the ear. Might not be your cup of tea, but rhythmically and whatnot, like it kind of has an interesting sound and feel to it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Yeah, and at my level, it'll work 100% of the time. So, and then that way, really own that major scale, right? You can't go wrong with owning that major scale. Then you add on these other scales. And like I said, this Black Friday training that I just did has like 8 scales that you need to know for improvisation. That 6 session set would be great to move into 2018 and really work on those 6 sessions for the first couple of months. There's a lot of great material that you can build upon in those sessions. All right, good time for one more question. Ron, I know you, I think you might have had a question, so got a few of you on here. Anyone else have a question? You can type it in and just get on audio-wise. Anybody want to play? I'm always having students that are complaining like, oh, I want these sessions, like more people playing. All right, who wants to play? Go ahead, put your camera on. Let's hear it. This is a great opportunity for you to play in front of others. All right, don't be shy. If you want to play in front of others, go ahead, share your camera. You could play in front of everyone else right now. Remember, everyone on this call is supportive of music. So I'm going to shut up. Anybody have anything? Okay. Kathy, will those sets stay up on the site? Yes, the live ones will be up there for members, okay? So if you're not a member for any reason, then you won't be able to see them after tomorrow. But they're all going to be in that live training section. Now, they may move at some point, because I might move them away from live training and put them like into improvisation or something like that. But they will be on the site for members, okay? Everything that I do, every time I do this live stuff, like when I do the live training sessions, and it might be free for anybody to watch, okay? You get directed to a page in which like, okay, here it is, and here it is for a short amount of time. If you're a member of the site, you always get access to that stuff, okay? And if for any reason it's like for one of the microsites or something, I will make sure that I definitely let you know that. But usually I don't do that stuff for the microsites. The microsites are kind of set. The Piano with Willie site is where I do all of my live training and stuff. So any of that stuff will remain on the Piano with Willie site for years to come. All right, anybody else? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, so thank you all very much for joining me for the office hours today. Remember, please be sure to check the calendar, because Yeah, please make sure to check the calendar, because especially like next month, I think we're all set. Yeah, so the office hours will be on the 19th in December, so that'll be fine. But if you are also a coaching, you're part of a coaching group, be sure to check those that coaching calendar for any upcoming changes. And also, if you're not a member of a coaching group, please definitely get onto the coaching groups. They're really going well, and you know, I had a session today. Did an hour with my Ellington group, and it's great, just all the questions and whatnot. So it's really awesome. Oh, Carlos, I'll see you in the initial coaching later on today. All right. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all very much. You guys take care, and I will see you on the 19th of December, and look forward to working with you then. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.